There are people who move through life with a quiet sense that something doesn't line up. Not in an obvious way, not enough for others to point it out, but enough for them to feel it. They notice it in rooms full of people their own age, in conversations that seem either too light or strangely distant. Time. They aren't confused about who they are. They're confused about timing. Somewhere along the way, their inner world stopped matching the number that follows their name. They don't feel the age they're supposed to feel. They don't react the way people expect them to. They may seem older in awareness, quieter, more observant, or younger in comfort, still searching for safety in situations where others feel settled. Often they've heard it said out loud, "You're very mature for your age," or the opposite, "You don't act like someone your age." Both comments miss the point, because this isn't about behavior, it's about development, about how life moved differently for them, how time didn't unfold evenly, how some parts of them were pushed forward too early while others were left waiting. This mismatch isn't dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up as a quiet tension between who they are inside and who they're expected to be outside. And for most of them, this awareness arrives slowly. Not as a crisis, but as a pattern they've been noticing for years. For many people who don't match their age, the shift began quietly, long before they were aware of it. Life asked for awareness before curiosity, control before exploration, stability before safety. Some were placed in roles they never chose, listening instead of being listened to, managing emotions instead of expressing them, holding things together while still learning what together meant. When responsibility arrives too early, development changes direction. The mind learns to stay alert, to observe before reacting, to anticipate instead of experiment. This isn't maturity in the usual sense, it's adaptation. Parts of the person grow quickly because they have to. They learn caution, they learn restraint, they learn how to read situations before entering them. Meanwhile, other parts slow down. Playfulness becomes secondary. Ease feels unfamiliar. Rest starts to feel undeserved. Over time, this creates a quiet imbalance, an inner world that feels older than the body carrying it, a seriousness that arrives without celebration. From the outside, it can look like composure, like wisdom, like discipline. But inside, it often feels like weight. The person didn't choose to grow up early. They responded to conditions that made growing up necessary. And once emotional acceleration begins, the system rarely returns to a neutral pace. Some parts keep moving forward, others stop, waiting for something that never fully arrives. Not every part of development speeds up under pressure. Some parts slow down, some stop. For many people who don't match their age, growth didn't move in a straight line. Certain abilities advanced quickly, others were left behind. While the mind learned to stay alert, the body learned to stay guarded. While awareness grew, a sense of safety never fully settled. These are the parts that were waiting for reassurance, waiting for consistency, waiting for a moment when it felt safe to relax. Time moved forward around them, but those parts stayed where they formed, unfinished, cautious, still looking for permission. This is why someone can appear capable and thoughtful, yet feel strangely unprepared in situations that seem simple to others. Why confidence may exist in ideas but not in connection. Why understanding emotions feels easier than trusting them. The delay isn't weakness, it's protection. Development doesn't pause without reason. It pauses where growth felt unsafe. So the person carries this quiet split, advanced in awareness, uncertain in security, older in some ways, younger in others. And when these two timelines coexist, the sense of not matching one's age becomes constant. Not because something is missing, but because development had to fragment instead of unfold naturally. Once development adapts to pressure, the body remembers the adaptation. The nervous system learns patterns before language ever forms. It learns when to stay alert, when to soften, when to brace, when to wait. For people who don't match their age, the nervous system rarely followed a typical rhythm. It learned to remain active for long stretches of time, to scan, to anticipate, to stay prepared. This changes how time feels internally. Moments slow down when vigilance is high. Years pass quickly when there is no space to reflect. The inner sense of age becomes distorted, not inaccurate, but altered. Some people carry a constant readiness in their body, a subtle tension that never fully relaxes. Others feel delayed in situations that require ease, trust, or spontaneity. This isn't personality, it's calibration. The system adjusted to what it believed was necessary for survival. And once that calibration settles in, it doesn't dissolve just because circumstances improve. The body continues to respond as if time is uneven, as if certain moments require maturity and others require caution. This is why someone can feel timeless in awareness and out of place socially. Why they may understand complex emotional dynamics yet struggle with simple forms of comfort. Their internal sense of age isn't wrong, it's informed by experience, not by the calendar. The age mismatch often becomes most visible in relationships. People who don't match their age tend to connect deeply but cautiously. They listen closely. They notice patterns. They sense shifts before words appear. In emotional spaces, they may feel older than the people around them, more aware of consequences, more attuned to undercurrents, less willing to move quickly. At the same time, certain forms of closeness can feel unfamiliar. Ease may arrive slowly. Trust may feel conditional. Dependence may feel uncomfortable. This creates a quiet contradiction. They long for connection, but struggle with the pace it's expected to move at. Some feel out of place among peers who relate lightly. Others feel overwhelmed by expectations that assume emotional readiness they don't feel inside. It isn't disinterest, it isn't detachment. It's a system that learned to approach closeness carefully because timing once mattered more than desire. This is why people who don't match their age often feel deeply loyal but reserved, capable of understanding others while remaining unsure where they themselves fit. In relationships, they aren't late or early, they're cautious. And caution, when misunderstood, often looks like distance. Living out of sync carries a quiet cost, not always visible, not easily explained. People who don't match their age often carry a low, constant fatigue, not from doing too much, but from adapting for too long. Holding awareness early requires energy. Staying cautious where others feel free takes effort. Navigating life without a clear emotional rhythm creates strain that rarely turns off. And beneath that exhaustion sits something softer. Grief. Not always for what happened, but for what didn't. For phases of life that passed without being fully lived. For moments of ease that never arrived on time. For a version of themselves that didn't get space to exist. Some grieve a childhood that felt abbreviated. Others grieve an adulthood that feels prematurely heavy. Many grieve both, without language for either. This grief doesn't always show as sadness. It shows as a quiet longing, as nostalgia without a clear memory, as a sense that something important was skipped. They're not stuck in the past. They've simply carried time unevenly. And when time moves unevenly, loss doesn't announce itself. It settles. People who don't match their age are often described in fragments. Too serious, too sensitive, too slow, too aware. But these descriptions miss what's actually happening. What appears as mismatch is often intelligence shaped by necessity. A system that learned when to advance and when to wait. A mind that adapted to conditions rather than expectations. Nothing about this process is random. Nothing about it is broken. Development doesn't always follow the calendar. It follows safety, pressure, timing. And when those elements arrive unevenly, growth becomes uneven too. Some people learn to think deeply before they felt secure. Others learn to protect parts of themselves until the right moment arrived. Many carry both at once. This doesn't make them immature, and it doesn't make them prematurely wise. It makes them adaptive. Over time, many begin to understand this quietly, that they aren't late, they aren't early, they aren't behind. They simply developed under different conditions, And as awareness grows, so does integration. The older parts begin to soften. The younger parts find space to grow. Time slowly starts to come back into rhythm. Not by forcing it, not by correcting it, but by understanding it. People who don't match their age aren't out of place. They're calibrated differently, and in that difference lives depth, patience, and a quiet kind of strength that was shaped, not chosen.